Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Crew Review for you.
For you, little old you.
One day we're going to become so famous, and we're going to start having T-shirts. And the T-shirt just says ... for you, and everybody knows what it means.
I'm always a fan of T-shirts, as you know.
He's not happy with me right now.
No, he's not.
So, we did Oceans 11 and 12. It's another week, another Oceans. We got Oceans 13 that we have viewed and are now reviewing. And it came out in 2007, was it?
That's right, 2007.
It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, like remembering when it came out, but
13 years ago.
years ago. That's crazy. Oceans 13 years ago. We planned it. That's why we did this podcast.
The magic number.
For this moment.
The whole series was just for this.
We should have done it on the 13th episode and then just stopped there. But What episode is this now? 18, 19? Something like that.
Shouldn't you know, editor?
I think it's 19. I just didn't know if y'all knew off the top of your head.
It's episode 20.
Oh, it's 20. Okay. I was wrong.
Golden 20 in the 2020 year.
Hey, happy 20th anniversary, guys.
Oh,
20th episode.
That's all right.
So sad.
So how's everybody doing?
We've survived 2020 so far. I feel like that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
It is. Yes. All right. Well, if y'all are ready, we can head into the spoiler zone.
Spoilers.
Beth, tell us what happens in this movie.
Yes. So this is our last Oceans movie of the original trilogy. And we find our beloved crew living it up. And then all of a sudden we see Ruben making a deal with this guy he shouldn't probably be making a deal with. And then the guy steals their hotel right out from underneath Ruben. He's so upset he has a heart attack, which is really sad. And so the Oceans crew rallies together and decides they are going to plot revenge for Ruben because this guy stabbed him in the back. So what do? They're going after Willie Bank, who's played by Al Pacino. And we'll talk about that later. But the stakes are even higher in this film because it's a hotel and a casino that is much larger than Terry Benedict. And they are devising multiple ways to trick the casino so that they can make the house lose a lot of money. They are also scheming up ways to cause an earthquake so that the hotel gets shaken up and they can ruin Banks' chance at getting the 5 Diamond Award, which he goes on and on about how all of his hotels have the 5 Diamond Award, the most prestigious award in hotel awards. Well, and every time he gets one of those, he buys his wife a diamond necklace that also has 5 giant diamonds. And so they decide they're going to go ahead and take those necklaces too. Revenge needs to be complete and swift. So they're plotting, they're planning, things are going well. They hit a couple of roadblocks. We'll talk about some of those. But then they hit a point of no return, and the only thing they can do is turn to their mortal enemy, Harry Benedict. And Benedict joins their crew in getting revenge against Willie Bank. So they hit the hotel opening night. It's actually a soft opening, so it's not at full capacity, but it's the big night where they pull out all the stops. Everything's super fancy. They've got a daredevil. They've got fireworks. It's July 3rd, and the party just gets going at midnight. Well, they manage in 3.5 minutes to walk away with $500 million and all 5 of the diamond necklaces, which is quite a feat. And so just as everything's wrapping up, Benedict double crosses them and gets Francois Toulour from Oceans 12 to rob the necklaces from the guys. But Oceans are pretty smart, and they were way ahead of Terry Benedict, and Francois actually stole the fakes. Whoops. So as a last resort to get revenge against Benedict, because how dare he double-cross them, they donate his amount of money to a camp for foster kids, the ultimate revenge. And our movie wraps up with everyone getting what they want and Willie Bank going down in flames.
Well done, Beth.
Thanks.
So good. I love that they went back to Vegas in this one. I think
Mhm.
it feels right. You know, they're back
It
home.
does feel right.
They needed to go home. That's for sure. Yeah.
And you know, as they market these movies when they came out, they're all like about every single one of them. They're just something to do with like casinos or like playing cards, you know, things like that. And the second one didn't really have anything to do with that. They just at the very end play poker, and it's like, oh, we can throw in those cards because of the end.
Mhm.
But this one was all about casinos and ruining this guy's night, getting their revenge, and yeah, it's
I
a
feel like Vegas is like the ultimate setting for this. I mean, they're all Vegas guys. All of their tricks, all of their scams, like Vegas is known for that, and you're always trying to beat the house. But then Vegas is just also a great setting for revenge
yes.
with its
Hey,
deep mafia history.
Beth, I'm requesting permission from my phone to use the thing.
Oh, no, you're not allowed.
But while I'm waiting on that, what is the first question?
Yeah, so okay, this movie is not just about the money. Like they really aren't in it for the money, even though they're walking away with the most money they've ever walked away with. But it's more about revenge. So how do you feel like this plot compares to the other ones? The other two movies.
Well, the first one, you know, they're just stealing something to steal something. The second one, they're stealing something because they're being blackmailed to. And then this one is just complete revenge. It's just like you cross paths with the wrong person. You should not have done that. And you're going to feel the full force of Oceans and his people. Of his 13. Who did they count as the 13th guy? Is it the British guy? The not Basher, but you know, the guy who does like the egg clone. Is he
Let me just tell you, I deep dove on that and could not find it. So if anybody found it for sure, I think you can kind of leave it up for some interpretation because they had a lot of kind of associates that worked for them. And at the very beginning, when they're going through the different ways that they're going to rig the different games, they talk about this one kid who can, like a computer genius, and they have him in there for like 5 seconds. And I read somewhere that he's one of the 13 along with Terry Benedict, but I'm not sure about it. I could not find it anywhere. I spent like an hour and a half looking for it and could not find who it was. I think Terry Benedict's definitely one of them, is one of the 13. And then the other 13th, I think, is left for interpretation.
Well,
Okay.
I feel like, I mean, the guy who always makes their big gadget for the big pull off, he's never been counted as one of the crew. He's always like kind of a vendor, if you will. And I feel like the kid is a vendor. But this time, Linus calls in a favor. And so, with the guy who always makes their gadgets. And so, I feel like you could argue that. But then you also always, like last movie and this movie, and we can talk about this later, but we have Linus's parents stepping in, and they also play a big role in this. And I feel like the father was definitely planned.
I think the father was definitely planned, but the mother wasn't planned, but she had to step in the last one, and they just had some more minor roles. So I'm with you that the British guy, because he took part more this time than he did the second one.
Yeah.
He was actually a part of like the night of kind of situation. So I would be more inclined again to say he was part of the 13.
And not even just like the night of, but the whole like initial preparations, like when they're sitting down with him asking, "Can it be done?" You know, he was there through and through the whole thing. And
sure,
yeah. So I feel like that validates him to be one.
Yeah. The only reason I said the night of is because in the 12th one, he was a part of some of that planning process as well, talking about the egg and the plate. But I think because he was involved, they didn't just, like you said, he wasn't kind of outsourced for a job. You know, he was, and it was it wasn't Linus. Who was it? The tech guy who needed help. I love that he couldn't get the card machine. Like he can hack into all these things. He can like handle some high tech security. Like crazy hacker. Can't rig the card machine for blackjack. Like I love how he had to call him in for that. That was a good little. He's like you can see his desperation throughout, and he's finally on the bed like calling him, and he's so nervous. He's just like, and if you could like not tell the guys, that would be great. So that was good.
So good, so good. I love that.
I really like that scene with him with the foot tack as well, like trying to get past the lie detector. It's like, I'm just really nervous.
Ashley was like, wait, what's going on? And I was like, I explained it. And she's like, man, that's crazy. I said, I know. It's insane. I love it. I love the thought behind that. Like, who thinks that up, you know?
Yeah.
But also, like he had to walk into the room and he had to walk out of the room like that.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Excruciating.
And you can't limp because they're going to know something's up. Oh, I don't like thinking about that.
Full commitment to that. Full commitment.
Man.
So what do you think they did with the money? Do you think they gave it to Ruben? And I know they gave him the deed to that property at the end. Do you think they were like gave him the money to help him start his hotel? They never really say, or did they split it?
I feel like they split it.
Like they split it.
Well, for this con, much like the last one, they had to pay. So in the second one, they have to pay Terry Benedict back. So they pay him back money, but they get a lot more. So they split that again because they pooled all their money to pay Terry.
Yeah.
And so with this one, they mention again because they're trying to buy that second drill, and they need money, but they've pooled all their money again. So they've depleted they have no money.
That's true. Yeah.
So I definitely think they re-split it. Ruben's ruined financially because of the investment in the building, but now that he has the building, I feel like they've given him the deed and then they split the money, but not 13 ways because of Terry, but 12, maybe 11 again. They split that, and Ruben gets his share to put back into the building. But he's got a brand new building, a brand new casino. Like, he's doing well. But I would split it. I would definitely have split it.
I got you. Yeah, I couldn't remember initially coming back to this movie. It had been a while since I've seen it. And by a while, maybe like 6 months. But last time I saw it, I couldn't remember what the Night Fox, what his role was until like it hit me when like he's on the helicopter pad with the gun. I was like, oh, I forgot about this. It's so good. And then how they fake him out, it's just amazing.
I thought it was really interesting that in this one, and maybe it was because the sole focus is revenge. However, I do feel like the first one's sole focus was revenge. It was just much more subtle because really Danny Ocean targeted Terry Benedict, who was dating his wife. So I feel like you could make a case for it being in revenge, but it was much more subtle. Where this one was like just straight revenge. It's not about the money, it's about straight revenge.
But is it revenge or in the first one, or was it just he just decided he didn't like him because he's dating his wife? And
he was more ticked off that he was dating his wife.
Yeah.
You could even if it is revenge, if you want to go that far and saying it, which I think it is a little bit of revenge for him, it's just for Danny.
Right.
He brings
the others, it's just for the money.
Right. He brings the team together in that movie. So the team is not vested in Danny's life in the first movie. Like, for the most part, they're not going to risk all, jail time, prosecution. They're not going to risk everything they do so that Danny can get revenge. Right. But by this time, they are together. They are a team. And for each and every one of them, what happened to Ruben is extremely personal. So I think it's revenge on the scale of the team as opposed to revenge for a single person who assembles the team.
Which, puts their heart way more in it, which you see throughout the movie because sometimes people were going to back out and then they guilt trip on, like when Yen didn't want to do the elevator thing and they're like, oh man, that just really sucks for Ruben. We were help him out.
Well, and that's one of my favorite lines as well. Saul says at one point in time, he says, "That's the thing about revenge assignments, Daniel." And I love that he calls him Daniel.
Yeah.
He said, "You can't back out when it gets too hard."
Mhm.
And I really like that line. And then he said, and they said something like, "Well, you don't have to go on." So I was like, "I never said that." He was in it too. He was just observing, and that was the situation for all of them. They faced some really difficult tasks, but there was never the option of, it wasn't like we can't keep going. It was like, we don't know what to do, but we've got to figure out something because it's not an option not to succeed for Reuben.
Right. Yeah. So what was y'all's favorite con in this movie?
So for me, I had two that I really enjoyed. I love the fact that they conned Benedict out of his money. Like they gave it to him and then they forced him to give it to charity. And I just thought that was great. And then the other one, I'm trying to remember, but I had two. I'll think about it. I'll come back because there's definitely another one I liked more.
Mine was probably the whole Linus and the girl thing,
And
like
that fake
just
nose.
and the fake nose. Oh my gosh, everything about
so
that is
crazy.
just cracks me up. Like every time it would flip back to that scene, I was like, "Oh, here we go." And then just crescendo with taking the whole case with all the diamonds at the end. Loved it. Probably my favorite.
Oh, I remember my other one. So it was when they are at the very end of the movie and they're at the airport and they rig the casino machine or the slots machine for the poor hotel inspector. And I just love that because, when Terry Benedict is trying to threaten Danny Ocean, he's like, "I know all the guys you're going to hire to come after me and they like me better than you."
Better.
And it just, at the end, they didn't have to give this guy the $11 million, but Danny Ocean takes care of his own. He's going to make sure that everyone gets a reward for helping him out. And even though the hotel inspector was unaware of his good fortune, was orchestrated, I love that they did that.
Oh yeah.
That was one of my favorites as well. And I looked it up. I did a deep dive on all the scams and cons here because I didn't do it in for number 12 and I felt dumb. But move with rigging the machine and having the coin sitting there or fall, that's called a Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
Yes. And they reference it a few times in the movie. You hear them talk about it, but they pull it twice, and one time being, I love that they use that to get around the machine, whatever it's called, that tracks people's heart rates and all that stuff, because they're able to rig the machine and then they just walk away, leave the coin there. The woman puts it in, and she's genuinely excited because she didn't know she was going to win. I thought that was good. And again, like you said, Beth, like they didn't have to do anything for this casino guy. They put him through heck, right? Mm-hmm. And so they want to give him a little something, and he wins $11 million. I mean, I would go through that for $11 million, wouldn't you? Like, I'll be that hotel inspector all day, every day. So that was a nice little nod. And there was one more that I really liked, and that was the whole thing is called the Reverse Big Store. Just the whole night where everyone wins, and that the meaning of that is like a big box store or whatever. Like there's tons of people and they're giving you money, right? You're taking their money, you give them the product, whatever it is. And so a reverse big store is they come in and they're just taking your money. So I like that. That's just kind of the theme for the night. I like how it's set up.
Yeah. And I didn't know if that was classified as a con or not, but I told Jennifer that at the end of the movie, I was like, this is my favorite scene of the whole movie. Like when they just make it right with that guy after everything went through. And I love the way they did it too. Rusty's like, he's like, "Hey, play this one. It's been doing good. It's been paying out."
I think the worst thing that floor inspector had to endure was the bed bugs.
Oh my gosh!
That made my skin crawl just thinking about it. And then when you show him waking up from a nap or from sleeping or something, and his face was just all blotchy, I was like,
ugh.
But here's my thing. I mean, I do feel bad for him to a degree. But Homeboy saw the bed bugs and then decided to get into the bed. I would have checked
Well,
out of that hotel.
he didn't get in the bed.
chair.
He slept on the chair, but it's still
He did
they
not
still
get
got
in
on
bed.
him because they were
I
everywhere.
mean, those things go everywhere.
Well,
Horror
but
stories.
the
Horror
red marks,
stories.
the red marks from his face were from something they sprayed on the towel, and then he dabbed his
Oh,
face.
that's right. That's right.
That would be well, and the bed bugs are terrible. It would make my skin crawl. But he didn't see those till after the fact and didn't get back in the bed. I mean, I'd have taken a shower and been done. But the sores on his face, that was the worst part for me. They looked painful. He looked like he had leprosy, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was
Yeah. Jumping ahead, since we're talking about him, one of the questions we had was, if you were the hotel raider, would you have stayed after all they did to you, or would you have left before you finished critiquing everything else?
I'm like,
At what point would you say bye?
the bed bugs. If
The
I
bed
see the
bugs?
bed bugs, I'm like, gone.
For me, I think I would have peaced out after the terrible smell and them not letting me switch my room. I said, shouldn't have treated me like that. I'm out. So
I guess I would think about it as like as far as the ratings go. So is he there to rate the hotel overall period, or is he just like, is this kind of rating system just a diamond rating? Like if you don't get 1 diamond, you get nothing. If you don't get 1 diamond. Yeah. Because at what point did they lose the last diamond? And at that point I would have been done. Like if there's no chance for them to get a diamond, I'm like, my job's over. I'm out of here.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about the tiers, but I do know, like, if they miss, there's like 500 checkpoints for a 5-star hotel in general. Not even mentioning the diamond status. But if they miss one of the 500 marks, like, they do not have a 5-star rating. And so,
interesting.
For me, it's just like, my tolerance for bad customer service is very little, and I would have left after. I would have been miffed about the line, but then I definitely would have left after the smell, and somebody else got to change rooms and they told me they didn't have anything else.
Yeah. Bye.
That was rough.
Not worth my time.
I guess for the diamonds, do you think the diamonds are like, because star rating for hotels, like a really bad hotel can get a 1 star, like, and I don't necessarily want to go there. For the diamonds, though, I feel like the diamond is kind of like you have to be pretty good to even get a diamond.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a little
really
different.
Hard to get even 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So for him, like one thing, if they mess up one thing, well, it's already like, okay, they're not getting the 5 diamonds. But at what point, like again, what point did he say? Did he stay to the end because they still had a chance to get 1 diamond? That's what I'm like freaking out about. I'm like, seriously? Like, did they really have a chance to get a diamond? I would have left long before when they lost that last diamond.
Speaking of him, when he was going up to tell Banks how upset he was to get kicked out of
I was going to give a thorough write-up.
Like, who are you? He's like, I'm nobody. I'm like, that was your chance to have gotten treated correctly. But they can't
do that. They're supposed to be anonymous.
He's undercover, yeah.
Yeah, he's undercover, and he's committed to his job.
True to his integrity, though.
Yeah.
Say, like, oh, I'm nobody. I'm nobody.
Exactly, yeah. Just keep playing the role, not revealing it.
No. So great.
Yeah. So who is cooler, Linus's mom or Linus's dad? Kinley, what do you think? Not in this one.
I think Linus's mom was cooler. I liked her character more. His dad, the first time I saw this movie, as soon as he answered, he was the FBI guy and answered the phone, I said, that's Linus's dad. Like I called that way early. And I just remember being disappointed the whole time. And then when we did, I think I mentioned this for 12. I may not have, but there was a deleted scene where, what's his name? A famous actor made a cameo as Linus's dad, and they cut it. And, what's his name? What's the guy from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Clint Eastwood. Sorry, Clint Eastwood. Made a cameo. Yes, I read that.
Man, that would have been a good one.
I'm so disappointed. And so now seeing this guy as Linus's dad, I was even more disappointed than I've ever been a little bit. But also, I really was I think they had a missed opportunity because apparently, I mean, you remember in the first one, Danny and Rusty know Linus's dad. All right. He's a con that works with them. And I just didn't get, I think they missed a good kind of dynamic opportunity to kind of have the dad have more character, you know? I don't know. I don't know. He seemed kind of dull.
Yeah, I mean, in the first one, he's the reason that Linus got the job because he had recommended him to Danny, and Danny, without even knowing Linus, took his word and knew that his son would do a good job. And then I think, part of the reason we found out, we guessed that it was his dad so early on was there was that phone call with his dad, and he's like, well, no, you can't speak to Danny. No, you can't speak to Rusty. So we know his dad is involved in this plot. And then when we have the FBI, it's just very easy to assume.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have liked their reveal to have been more shocking.
Yeah.
Well, and it's obvious to me the FBI is fake and in on it once they take out Livingston Dell, the tech guy, because he gets in the back of the police car and he smiles. And then the British guy comes in with all the replacements, and you go, it makes sense. That's how they were getting the blackjack car dealer on the floor. They couldn't, edit or tweak every one of them on the floor. They had to get new ones brought in. That's how they did it. That was all part of the plan. They had to have, planned for that. And I got a little confused though, because they knew that was going to happen, but then they picked up the fingerprints, and that seemed like it was a last minute hack job they had to take care of because they had to do the cartwheel where Basher had to dress up as the guy who's going to do the motorcycle jump to distract him, and so that seemed like a last minute con. So what were did they not expect him to leave fingerprints, and that accidentally happened? Or that was kind of where I was thrown off a little bit. But that's how you figure there, the FBI people are in on the con because Livingston's not really been arrested,
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was really well written with the card, like bringing all the cards in and everything. Just like things like I would never think of. I'm just like, oh, it makes sense. It's genius. I loved it.
I'm really disappointed we never actually saw the Evel Knievel stunt.
I know. I was like, with the fireworks at the very end, I was like, please show him jumping in slow motion. Just please.
I would have loved if that had been like the one who was like running away with the real diamond necklaces or just something ridiculous. Would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Like you set it up and they never used it. What a waste.
Which of the jobs would y'all have wanted?
What
Come
do
on,
you
Kinley.
think?
Come on.
Saul, all day, every day, again.
You love your
His
Saul.
role in this one was so good. He's the fake hotel inspector, and he milked that role. I would have been so good at milking that role. I'd have been all over it. I loved at the beginning, he had the little fake dog carrier, and he was like, no one can carry princess but papa. Just he owns even that little level of it. I'm like, yes, Saul's getting it. And I just love at the very end where I love that they get Willie Bank to see that they scammed him even with the hotel inspector. Like they didn't have to reveal that to him.
Yeah.
But Saul comes up in his little street clothes with his fingers crossed, I love that. That was a good nod.
Yeah.
So my job would have been Saul's job as the distractor,
Yeah. Along those lines, I really liked Mr. Wing's job, Yen's job, because he just got to play it up, kind of like Saul. He just got to live it up and just play the role and be treated amazingly. However, if I had a second, I'd probably choose Frank's job, being the enough said guy.
Enough said.
I just think it'd be fun to be a card dealer, like a legit card dealer for a day.
Dominoes.
What?
Doing cards or dominoes?
Well, regardless, just any kind of game, like the game master or whatever. I think it would be fun. So
I love that Terry Benedict didn't just invest his money, but he stepped in to like get the guy to buy the domino thing. like he was gonna have exclusive rights.
Oh yeah, that was a nice touch.
They brought him in. They had to
He was
give Willie
enjoying
Bank that
himself.
pressure. Yeah, yeah.
What job would you have done?
Oh, funny.
I don't know.
Can y'all hear her? Okay. I don't know if the okay.
I don't know what job I would have done. I thought about it.
Okay, if it comes to you.
I do want to mention though, can we just talk about how the fact that Saul knows those young girls that he was able to call and say, "Hey, I need you to distract."
Yeah.
Like, how did
She
you know
answers.
him?
Okay, Saul.
She answers, "Hey, Saul." I'm like,
Hey,
"Oh
Saul."
my gosh." What, who is Saul networking?
Yes, what's the story there?
Oh my
The
gosh.
unmentionable counters at
They
Macy's.
could be your granddaughters. Like,
That's what I was wondering. I wonder if it's his girlfriend's granddaughters. That would have been a nice setup.
I would, yeah.
You want to
I
believe
love
that.
how they don't mention it. Yeah.
yeah, they don't.
I just love how they leave it up to you.
There's a lot.
You
There's
know,
a lot
you
of
decide.
things. Yeah, they just leave it to your imagination.
Mhm.
What about you, Beth? What job would you have done?
I mean, I always like Bachelor's role and that he gets to destroy things and blow things out. That's always fun. But the dice con and like the revolution that they lead in Mexico is so funny.
Beth, I was waiting for you to tell yours so I could say I could see you going to Mexico as the plant and then leading the Union Revolution.
Because like it stressed me out. Like, the first time I watched it, I was like, "They're screwing up the plan. Why are they dealing with this rebellion? Why don't they just do the job?" But it paid off in the end because they had the support of those guys to help them out.
Yeah.
And then they had the guy's brother was the security guard up here, so they needed to appease him. Yeah.
I just thought that was so funny. And then they send down the other brother to get Virgil to come back, and then like he gets involved in it, and they're like, "So this is $7.2 million," and they're like, "No, $36,000 total." He's like, "Oh, check."
Like, oh.
He says, "Send him a check. We'll backdate it." I love that.
Yes, we'll backdate it. And I love how excited they were when they won and they broke down the fence and the brothers were like, "Yeah." That's highly entertaining.
That's funny,
the
Beth.
revolution.
I had pegged you. I was going to say I could see you being the plant in Mexico and leading the revolution. Like, that's you.
I'm
That's
here for
you.
it.
Absolutely.
Just stirring the pot.
Oh,
That's
man.
me.
Yeah.
I liked the dice though, just that con as well. You know, putting the chemicals in the dice and then just being able to try and flick the lighter and it just flipped. I loved that. That was neat. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that whole conversation at the beginning of the movie when they're I forget what his name, but the guy who always builds their tech and their gadgets. And he's like listing like, "Oh, this is probably what you're stuck at." And they're like, "Oh no, we've got this resolved." And then he like goes through like all the games and the dice. He's like, "But the dice are watched from the plant to the casino." And he's like, "That's why we went to the plant."
Yeah.
He's like infiltrated at every level. I thought that was great.
I will say he's not one of the 13 or 12 or 11, but the guy that's in every one of these movies, the guy with the tattoos on the back of the head.
Yes.
I love what?
Bruiser, right?
It wasn't.
Bruiser.
It may be a bruiser. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, "How's your wife?" Pregnant
again.
Also, I love when they're like robbing the casino, like winning against the house. Like Bruiser is one of the characters who's like winning at one of the tables. And he like walks away with a huge stack of money. It's so great.
Well, they got him in because he was the one that cashed all the money for him. He took their chips because they couldn't be seen in that moment. So he did a good job of that. So
I will say I also loved Brad Pitt with his long hair in that one scene, leaving that
earthquake guy.
Oh my gosh.
With his cargo pants and high tube socks.
Yeah. And he's like, "Before you leave, you should hit the table." She says, "I don't gamble, sir. Neither should you. With people's lives." That's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah. I just love how, they set that one up very early. And at the end, everybody's leaving the hotel and Bank goes to his security guy and he's like, "What are you doing? People need to go the opposite way. Come back in." And he's like, the evacuation plan. He's like, duh, like, we have to follow the plan we put in place. That was good.
Also, like, how terrible of a hotel owner is he? If you just had, like, earthquake vibration, your guests 100% should be exiting the building to make sure that everything's okay.
Yeah. And me and Jennifer were discussing how common earthquakes are in Vegas. I know it's pretty close on the West Coast, but I'd never really heard of like it being prone to earthquakes. But I don't know. I just didn't know if it was more. I guess I'm assuming it'd probably be more normal over there than over here in the East Coast, where we are, obviously. But speaking of, did y'all feel that one last week?
I did.
I did not.
Or did you know that there was one?
I was speaking person.
I knew there was one.
She was awake. I was still asleep. And then she just like, as soon as I woke up, she's like, hey, 30 minutes ago, the whole house shook. And the furniture was rattling. And I was like, was it an earthquake? She's like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know. Everything was shaking.
I didn't see a big truck. I guess it was an earthquake.
Yeah, she's like, I thought it might have been a big truck, but I didn't see a truck. And and then like
truck that you should be concerned about if your whole house shakes.
I was like, do I need to wake John up? And then it stopped. I was like, okay, maybe it wasn't anything to worry about.
I think there's been like 3 or 4 earthquakes in my lifetime that I've been through, and every single one I've been asleep through. I don't think I've been awake for one before.
You got to wake up next time.
I know.
Come on, John.
It's a big deal.
I've slept through most of them too.
Yeah. We didn't feel it here, but I just love this movie. It's, I think the perfect ending to the original trilogy. Just coming back home shows the unity of the team, and I love the nod to the first one at the end when they accomplished the task and they watched the fireworks.
Yeah,
and it's the same fountain. Yeah, it's the same music as at the end of the first one when they're at the fountain. It's kind of even the same kind of exit of. It's just really well done. It just kind of bookends well as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Beth, explain what you said in your notes about the references to The Godfather.
Yeah, so Al Pacino, who Godfather, plays Willie Bank, and they just had a lot of references to The Godfather in this movie. There were several lines that had come from The Godfather, and Al Pacino, and then the guy who plays Terry Benedict were both in The Godfather. Terry Benedict was in the third one.
What?
And then the gold phone that Bank uses, Samson made specifically for him, and it's a reference to in The Godfather. Apparently, there's a gold phone, and so they just had a lot of little nods towards that movie.
Okay. Side note: the main mansion of The Godfather, is on sale on the market now. You can buy it.
Oh, really?
It's one of the only 4 houses on the market in the U.S. today that are over $100 million. And all 4 houses on the market at that price are all in California. Like 2 in Vegas, 1 on the coast somewhere, and then not Vegas. Why did I say that? Los Angeles. 1 up the coast somewhere from Los Angeles, and then the 4th one was very north. I can't remember.
Let's buy one.
Yeah.
Let's buy one, guys.
Still.
No problem.
Review mansion. I like it.
Oh, man. And then also you had in your notes that they the explanation of the line, you shook Sinatra's hand because Frank Sinatra played the original Danny Ocean.
Yep. That was their little nod to the original, which is so great.
And don't they mention that in the second one in Ocean's 12?
They do make several references. I mean, Frank Sinatra is obviously one of the greatest American icons. He's beloved in Vegas especially, and was part of the original Rat Pack. So he definitely had mafia tie-ins, and so it's just kind of cool to bring all that back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And then another point I thought that was really cool, because I just love a good reference. I love a good nod. But when Yin is playing his chips, he places them on 11, 12, and 13. Like he's betting on 11, 12, 13.
I didn't like that.
That was good.
I thought that was a cool little a reference to betting on the Ocean's Crew.
The Ocean's Crew.
Oh man. All right. Anything else I need to talk about the movie?
Oh, I just thought this was interesting. So, when Linus is trying to read Reuben some of the letters and they're all trying to raise Reuben's spirits, but he reads one from Basher and it sounds like poetry, and it's actually a line from a U2 song, like Two Hearts Beat as One. And Linus gets really awkward about it. But it's actually a reference to their album titled War. And so Basher was like sending the message like, we're going to war for you. And I thought that was so cool.
It's like, I'll just let you read these.
But Linus just got so awkward about it.
Now, Jennifer mentioned when we were watching this, she was like, is there a closer relationship between Basher and Reuben that's unexplained because he wrote him all those letters? Because he was the one writing. Nobody else wrote him letters.
I thought other people wrote him letters.
I thought it was a pile of letters from everyone, and they just featured Basher's.
Because at the end, he looks at Basher and says, thanks for the letters. So I just assumed that he meant only to him. But
I thought he was with Basher and Danny, and he just said to Danny, like, thanks for the letters.
Mm-hmm.
But Basher's definitely...
I may have to watch that last part again to know for sure.
Yeah. So I noticed this at the end, and I thought this was, I'd never paid attention to it before, but when they're leaving the airport, Matt Damon, George Clooney, and Brad Pitt, Matt Damon already leaves, Linus leaves, and, they say the whole, I'll see you when I see you. And Brad Pitt or Rusty says something like, what do you say? Try to keep the weight off between us next time.
Yeah.
And George Clooney had gained some weight, and they joke between the two movies. So it's literally saying before the next movie, but between jobs, try and keep the weight off. And George Clooney's response is
settle down and have kids.
Settle down and have a couple kids, which is referencing he and Angelina Jolie getting ready to adopt.
Wow.
I mean, it was just kind of a little like personal play there. So I enjoyed it. That was neat. Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I like that. All right. Are we ready to give our reviews?
Yes.
Got that calculator ready.
Calculator. Beth, why don't you start us off?
All right. I gave it a 6.
Right on.
Your turn.
I just didn't know if there was more to it.
So is this your least favorite one?
I think so. And it's shocking because I love a good revenge plot. But I don't know if it was because we never had like the big reveal that the 11 and 12 did of like, here's what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just all straightforward and was like unveiling as things happened or what. But I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't my favorite. It's my least out of the 3.
Gotcha. It was also the least favorite of my 3, but just barely. Like, they're so good, and I don't want to bash it in any way. It's just I like the other 2 a little better, so I gave it an 8. Because I think I gave it an 8.5 and a 9.5 to the other 2, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I don't know. Did you have a rating for it?
Did you ever get my rating last time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want to say 6.5.
Ashley gave this movie a 7.
Wow.
I know she liked this one a lot more than she liked the last one.
Okay.
And then I gave this movie an 8.5. I like it better than the second one personally. The second one's my least favorite, but they're still good. So gives us an overall crew rating of, drumroll, 7.2.
7.2.
Nice.
7.2. So.
Right on.
Did we talk about Oprah's real quick? Oprah's little cameo. I love
my
that.
goodness.
We haven't
I love
talked
that they got
Cameos.
Oprah.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Her first scene when they're crying, when Rusty comes and Danny's like, oh, something. And he's like, are you crying? And Oprah's playing and he's crying at Oprah. I love that.
And he's making fun of him, but then he goes, They're going to give him a whole house?
And then he gets emotional. And then they bring her back, and
With
Terry
Terry.
is being interviewed by her. And it's so awkward and so great.
Now, this may be wrong. I told Jennifer this, but I'm second guessing myself. In the second movie, when the Night Fox woke up Danny with that wake up call, and he had all the espresso, and then he and Rusty are watching TV. Were they watching Oprah then as well, or were they watching something else?
I think they were watching an old movie or something.
For
I
some
think it
reason,
was.
for some
I
reason,
think
I
it
thought
was.
they were watching Oprah. But,
I don't remember what it was, but they didn't focus. We may have not even seen what it was because they were talking, or Danny was talking.
It never showed the
or
screen.
something. Yeah, and they're just like drinking, like 6 o'clock in the morning, just watching, kind of talking. So
Yeah.
anyway,
They need some of that the wine with the coffee in it. The whatever you call it, apothic something.
The Apothic Cold Brew Red.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one.
All righty. Well, we will continue with one more Oceans movie, Oceans 8. And our plan is, because the theater's open today, August 21st, today.
Oh, today's my birthday.
Oh, yeah. By the way, today's Jennifer's birthday.
happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
So we will do Oceans 8 through Zoom again. And then we are going to be back in the studio with the next movie that we see in theaters. And we're very excited about getting back to it. So thank you all so much for watching and listening. If you could, please give us a rate or a review. That would definitely help us out. And share it. And we hope you enjoyed it. And Jennifer, would you like to finish it? Close us out?
Until next time, we go big tonight.
Woohoo!